Consider Cannabis is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment recommendations. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. So I had emotional breakthrough, I had physical breakthrough, and I had spiritual breakthrough, all because of intentional, mindful, focused use of cannabis. It's time to consider cannabis. I'm your host, Curtis. This week, I'm going to be talking to you about getting high. So a lot of the information I'm going to be presenting to you is aimed towards people who are considering using cannabis as medicine and not people who have already started using it as treatment. Now, I've heard a lot of people talking about CBD versus THC and praising CBD because it doesn't get you high. And while that's true, and it's a great product, I love CBD. If it wasn't for CBD, I'd still be in the haze of antidepressants. But the high of THC is just not something to be scared of. It's not something that we should necessarily try to avoid like the plague. Now, I understand that some people out there are concerned about getting drug tested at work and losing their job because their employer won't allow them to use cannabis or have THC in their system, so they want to use CBD. But, I mean, I'm sorry, but the truth is that all the different cannabinoids in the plant, they all have a role in our health and wellness. And we have to make the decision about what's important and what are we going to prioritize in our life. And for some people, they feel no choice, that their job has to be absolutely their number one priority over their health and wellness. And while I respect that choice, I guess, it kind of saddens me that this is the situation that we have to live in, where you have to choose your employment or choose to seek cannabinoids for your body. And it's really disappointing, but it is the situation we live in today. And it's not going to change until we break down the stigma behind cannabis. Now, one of the ways we can do that is by having open dialogue. So that's what we're going to dedicate this episode to doing. I want to talk to you today about getting high, what getting high is like for me, what my experience has been with cannabis, and what a cannabis high is like. So join me and we'll consider cannabis together. All right, so I want to talk to you guys this week about getting high. But before I get into that, I want to reiterate how much I appreciate all my listeners. And I do apologize that it's been a couple weeks since I last released an episode. I have been super busy working on our website. ConsiderCannabisNow.com is almost fully operational. You should be able to go on there right now and click on the episodes pages and on the different episodes and see and listen to see the pictures and listen to the episodes on site if you'd like. There's also links to our YouTube page. There's links to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I recently read just this morning, actually, that Facebook is considering changing their policy on cannabis sites. They still don't want to sell cannabis, but they want to allow people who are in legal states, I guess, are considering allowing those companies to advertise their products and whatnot. However, we still probably will not be allowed to run ads, which is, I guess, who cares about running Facebook ads, I guess, really. But anyway, so website is getting to be 100%. Spent a lot of time working on that and getting some new art up, laying out a new theme. So go ahead and go check that out. I'd love to hear from you. And if you have something you'd like to see on that website, let me know. Email me at OhioPodcast. That's OHIGHOPOTCAST@gmail.com. You can also reach out to me on any of the social media platforms, really. Just go to ConsiderCannabisNow.com, and our homepage has links to all of our social media profiles. Great. So now that the advertisement for myself is over, I would like to get back into the topic for the day. So, getting high. Now, I was introduced to cannabis and this idea of microdosing by a lady named Joanna Nutting. She runs a podcast called Casually Baked. I do believe I've mentioned that podcast on this show before. And if you're looking for another cannabis-related podcast to listen to and haven't heard that one yet, I recommend giving it a shot. She's a pretty cool lady. So she introduced me to the concept of microdosing, and this was before I was even using CBD. But once I tried the CBD that she recommended, I was just blown away with how well my mental health was doing. Then I decided I wanted to back away from pharmaceuticals altogether and really pursue natural holistic remedies for my conditions. So I shared with Joanna how a couple years ago, before I started using cannabis as medicine, I had an experience with pot that left me in a panic attack, just completely freaking out. And she explained to me how too much THC can do this thing to you, which we're going to get to in a little bit, and how I should microdose to avoid having those sorts of reactions, that I should microdose and also keep CBD tincture around because CBD tincture can help level us out when we're feeling overwhelmed in a overdone it situation. All right. So keep CBD on hand, microdosing. This is what she was telling me. So for microdosing, I would get a little vape pen. I got a stupidly expensive vape pen that she recommended, actually, called the Firefly 2 or something like that. And while I like it, it was great in the beginning. I've kind of moved on from that particular product. I just feel like I'm sucking on it forever and never really getting a good vape hit. But anyway, it's not really a product review show. So I was using this Firefly to microdose. I would go into my safe space, a room that I designated as a sanctuary for myself. I'd go in there and I would journal what time of day it is, how I'm feeling, what strain I'm going to use, and anything else I could think of that would be relevant to what might affect my mood as I start to ingest the THC. So in doing that, I've found myself invigorated, to be honest with you. The high that came from microdosing was like the high you get from a really good cup of coffee. You're focused, you're energetic, you're ready to go. I had never really experienced that with cannabis in my entire life. When I was a kid playing around with it, that was never something that I'd experienced. And I love microdosing through the day. It's a wonderful way to keep me focused. I do a lot of podcast editing, as you might have guessed. And while, it's a great job to have, there's a lot of distractions on your computer as well, so keeping focused is something that is very important for me to be able to get my job done. Now, microdosing is really the way to go if you're considering cannabis and are just going to start out with what this product could possibly do for your health and wellness. Microdosing is the way to go, 100% without a doubt. Now, with microdosing, you're going to start off with grinding up maybe 1/4 of a gram to 1/2 gram and putting it into a vape and vaping it by like 1 hit, maybe 2 hits, and then taking a break, 15, 20 minutes, going back to your journal and logging what it did for you. Log exactly how you feel, exactly how much you took, and exactly how much time it had been since you took it. And you just kind of go through that journal, throughout the weeks and months, and you'll probably notice that you've started needing to use a little bit more, and that's because your tolerance builds up. And what you'll find is that you'll get yourself to a point where you can ingest more of the cannabinoids, and the feeling of intoxication is diminished. So like what I'm trying to say is if you hadn't been microdosing and you just smoked or vaped a gram, you might have overdone it. But having microdosed for a month or two up to the point of smoking that gram a day or vaping that gram a day, you will not feel the same high after the couple months of microdosing as you would if you just went to that gram right away. So you build up a tolerance and it helps keep you from those intoxication types of feelings. Now, that's the second level of highness is intoxication. Maybe it's the first level and microdosing would be like a pre-high. But this intoxication is not necessarily something that we should be ashamed of. I think that there's definitely times when we don't want to be intoxicated. I hope for your own well-being and life journey that there's times when you don't want to be intoxicated. If not, I just want to encourage you to talk to someone you trust, because nobody should have to go through life feeling like they want to escape their life all the time. And if that's how you feel, talk to someone and get them to help you make a plan to change your life so that you don't feel like you just need to be intoxicated all the time and want to escape. There's a lot of beautiful things out there that we can experience not being intoxicated and enjoy a lot more. But anyway, again, there's nothing wrong with getting intoxicated. I'm simply saying that when we desire to be intoxicated all the time, there's more likely than not some underlying issues that we probably should address. But let's not talk about that today, because that's really not the topic. I just like to segue into rabbit trails. I can't help myself. So the intoxication that I've experienced from cannabis is more like having a couple glasses of wine as opposed to the microdosing, which is like having a couple cups of coffee. It's interesting to me the way cannabis can actually do that. The way ingesting THC in very small amounts can give me almost a stimulant effect. And then when I start to overdo it, it becomes a relaxing effect. It's amazing to me, really. But that's all it really does, is relax you. It's not like I've seen people on heroin. It's not like that. It's not the same as people who have dropped acid or eaten mushrooms. Like they talk about the high of marijuana being like a psychedelic, and that's not my experience. I can't say that that's not going to happen to you if you try it. I'm saying that this has never been my experience. Man, sometimes I wish it would have been. I've always thought that was kind of fun, but it is what it is. For me, it's like having a couple glasses of wine and just wanting to chill on the couch and watch Netflix. That's all I want to do if I've done too much cannabis and I'm feeling a little intoxicated. So, honestly, sometimes I like to go out of the house. If you have never experienced cannabis before and then you do, and you're really liking the feeling, you might want to get out of the house and go do something, especially if you've been in pain and haven't been able to go do anything for a while. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that either. Go live your life to the fullest you possibly can. Just get a designated driver, please. That's all I'm saying. But go enjoy the world, absolutely. Now, what's nice about that level of high is that it is relaxing. It can be enjoyable. It can be uncomfortable. It can just make you want to go to bed. And whenever I don't enjoy feeling that, that's all I do is just go to bed, and I'll wake up feeling great in the morning. So if you overdo it with cannabis, just take a nap, like really. But on the flip side of that, this next level of getting high that I want to talk to you about, overdoing it, is really, you just can't really take a nap. Because see, for me, when I overdo it, I tend to get the heart racing in the chest and that really tense feeling. I don't like to call it a panic attack because I haven't had a panic attack in a while. Now, I have heard of people overdoing it on edibles and being laid out for like a day and a half, or being high and gone, as they say, for a long, long time. I've never experienced that, and I don't really know if I ever will. I haven't had a lot of experience with edibles. I've only tasted a few different edibles, and honestly, I've never really enjoyed the taste. So hopefully when the dispensaries in Ohio open up and the processing plants and everything, I'll be able to taste some professional edibles and see if those are different. But, I probably won't ever intentionally eat so much that I am locked on a couch, because I use cannabis to engage my life, to engage my family, engage and play with my children, and being locked on a couch just doesn't actually sound like fun to me at all. So I can't really speak to that level of overdoing it, but what I can talk to you about is overdoing it in panic attacks. So what I found as I was microdosing is I have a personality where if I like something, I want more of it. I think that's not that uncommon, but part of my bipolar issue is that I have impulse control issues. So it's a lot easier for me to go head over heels for something that I enjoy and that I like. And that's what I did with cannabis. I enjoyed the stimulated feeling like a good cup of coffee, and I wanted more of it. And I will admit, absolutely, a couple of times I overdid it. So the first time I overdid it through microdosing, I knew I was going to be okay. All right, so I had vaped and my heart was starting to race and it was getting more intense. It wasn't like getting less intense. So I knew what was coming and I knew I was going to be okay, but I knew I really didn't like this feeling and I just wanted it to be over. So I decided to distract myself by running on the treadmill. I thought to myself, and maybe this is a really dumb idea, I don't know, but all I knew is that my heart was racing and I was sitting on a chair. I knew that that wasn't the way my heart was supposed to be racing. So I put myself on the treadmill and said, that's where my heart's supposed to be racing. So I ran on the treadmill and tried to just focus on whatever show I was watching on Netflix while I ran. And it worked fine. I was great. It was a good workout, enjoyed the show, and felt better afterwards. But I didn't really like that experience. I turned to the Casually Baked podcast and was listening to some episodes, and I found one on mindfulness, I believe. I don't remember the name of the episode. I should probably have looked it up before I recorded this, but it was a great episode where she talked to somebody who was talking about using meditation and mindfulness techniques during cannabis ingestion. So I decided to try that, except I took it to a different level because I had been, I'm bipolar, I'm in therapy, dealing with a lot of stuff, personal issues, and I decided to induce a panic attack intentionally, mindfully in this safe space of mine in my own home. I intentionally induced the panic attack to try and work at my fear issues, to really process what I'm feeling, what I'm afraid of, why I'm afraid of it, what do I really believe about the things I'm afraid of, and so that's what I did. Now, first of all, don't do this unless you have been going through therapy and are in good hands with someone you trust who knows you're using cannabis as medicine, who's on board with this idea. I don't recommend you doing it. If you find yourself in a panic attack and you can find a place for you to do some introspective work, I highly recommend you doing it. I have had some amazing breakthroughs because of cannabis in this area, and I'm going to share that with you now. So I went to my room. It's a guest room, actually, but I went to the room and I sat, I ingested, I started feeling panicky, and I decided to lay down and ingest a little more. In that, laying on the floor, I had to go deep into my mind about the things I was afraid of. One of the things I processed was the fear of not being adequacy issues, that I, for some reason, am not a good enough person to keep my wife wanting to be with me, that I, for some reason, have this fear of abandonment from her, that my marriage will crumble, when in reality, as I laid there on the floor and processed all the things and conversations I've had with my wife and the things that I really believe from her mouth that she said to me, those fears did not line up with the truth and reality that I've experienced. So some reason, because I was in this state of mind and in this mindful, intentional act of processing this, that realization that my deep-seated fears and what I knew to be real did not equal each other. I was able to get rid of those fears. They're gone. And I had such a great time. Well, not a good time. Was so excited at the end of that I wanted to do it again, and I did. Now, the next one I had to process was my fear of death. So I again went up to my room. I ingested cannabis to the point where I started feeling panicky, and I ingested a little more, and then I actually ingested a little bit more this time. And I was really freaking out, and I had to figure, and I, really process it, peel back the layers about the different things that I'm specifically scared of, this or this or this. And it really all came down to the fear of death. And I had to, and it's not uncommon. A lot of people have to wrestle with their own mortality. I mean, we all do it. But as a professing Christian, a worship pastor of 10 years, I have inside of me this fear of death that's deep-seated because when I was 2 years old, my brother Matthew died. He died in his sleep at 3 days old, and my parents told me that he died in his sleep, and I just didn't know how to process it. They were trying to tell me it was peaceful and it was a gentle way to go. But for me, in my little messed up 2-year-old mind, it was just scary. And I developed a sleep anxiety. I was always afraid to go to sleep. And this fear of death has just lived deep inside of me ever since I was 2 years old. But what I was finding is that I had this giant turmoil in me because of this fear of death. Because I also had this belief in Jesus, in this eternal life through Jesus Christ. Now, in this panic attack, I got to peel back some real good layers and ask myself some real good questions like, do you really believe in Jesus? There's a lot of things in the Christian faith that just sound too good to be true, buddy. Are you sure that's right? Phrases like Sky Daddy would pop in my head. I never liked that one. I always found that one really insulting. But anyway, I had a lot of things going through my head, and I had to really think and contemplate about why I believe in Jesus. And I brought back to remembrance this amazing event that happened in my life, that I was stuck in a spot where I was sure I was either going to get killed or kill myself somehow or go to jail. And I remember praying in my brother's backyard for a way out, and I got it. I don't understand how I got it, but I got it. The only thing that I can possibly think of, the only explanation that makes any sense is that it was miraculous. And I'm sure there are people out there listening to this who are like, yeah, blah, 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 preaching. And I want to tell you, I'm not trying to preach at you. I'm really not. What I'm trying to tell you is that in that moment, I came to a realization that my faith in Jesus is solid, and it cannot live in harmony in my body with this deep-seated fear of death. They can't live together. But because of that experience, that older in life, visceral, spiritual experience, I have this overwhelming faith that Jesus saved me, which means that fear of death cannot live in me anymore. And it was gone. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to die today. I don't want to die tomorrow. But I'm going to be okay if I do. I'm not scared. And again, this isn't me trying to preach at you to believe in Jesus. I think you should. I think you should take that chance. But that's not why I'm doing this. I mean, I can't help it. It's in my nature. I was a pastor for 10 years. It's probably coming out that way. But what I want to tell you, and what I really want you to get out of this, is that I had a mental breakthrough. I had with the CBD. With the CBD, I had a mental breakthrough that allowed me to get free from the confines of Prozac and lithium. And if you've never been on both of those things at the same time, you're lucky, and I hope you never have to. With THC, I was able to get some freedom from my physical pain that kept me on the couch. I had physical breakthrough. Okay? And then through this process of facing my fears, or through intentional cannabis-induced panic attacks, I was able to have spiritual breakthrough. So I had emotional breakthrough, I had physical breakthrough, and I had spiritual breakthrough, all because of intentional, mindful, focused use of cannabis. I'm just trying to say that a cannabis high isn't something that should intimidate you. There is definitely a possibility of overdoing it and feeling a panic attack, but if you follow some basic safety precautions or rules, whatever you want to call them, if you do it in a safe space that you trust you'll be okay, like your own home or a trusted friend's home, if you do it around people who've used it before and know what you're going to go through, if you can surround yourself with people that you feel just safe around, that would be the best environment in my mind to first start experimenting with cannabis. And remember to keep some CBD tincture on hand so that if you do overdo it and you are not enjoying the effects, you can take some more of that and wait a couple minutes to level out. Remember that your heart's going to beat, it's going to pound, but it's not going to stop and it's not going to come out of your chest. You're going to be okay. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Next week, I hope to have a fun, different kind of episode prepared for you. I'll be touring Apex Supercritical in Jonesville, Ohio. Hopefully I'll have lots of pictures for the website and some good audio recordings to make for an interesting podcast next week. Until then, remember, don't stress out about it. Everything is vapor. If you would like to be a guest and share how cannabis has helped your health and wellness, contact me at considercannabisnow.com. If you found anything of value in this episode, please share it with someone else. Remember to subscribe for free and get every new episode delivered right to your phone. Join me next time, and we'll consider cannabis together.